Hello and welcome to a re-recording of an introduction to Gatlytron. Sadly, the webinar that we had for the introduction, we actually pressed the record button and we also hit the stop button, but the file never showed up where it was supposed to show up and was somehow swallowed by the dark abyss of some kind of cloud. So one good thing about this whole situation is that since we did this webinar, we have introduced some new features to Gatlytron. So you will now also be able to see that as well. And with that, I would just jump right into it. So what is Gatlytron? Basically, it's a small open source framework that assists you creating Gatling load tests. So basically, it's sitting on top of Gatling and simplifies some things for you so that you don't have to go into that. Now, one feature of Gatlytron is that you have a lot of reporting possibilities. Gatling out of the box with the newest version only have the HTML reports that you only get at the end of a test execution. And you cannot really analyze what is going on during a test while you are running a Gatling test with the Community Edition. So what we did for doing that, let me see. So we combined Gatlytron with EMP. EMP is the engineered monitoring platform, which has dashboarding capabilities, is also 100% free. And with that, we are able to actually analyze Gatling tests real time while they are executing. And also we store the data to a database for long time analysis. So if you have executed a test a year ago and a lot of other tests, you can now as well compare these tests quite easily. Good, so I would jump right into the server. And this is our demo server, and just a little bit of an introduction. So we currently have Gatlytron on the Maven repository, so you can get Gatlytron from here. This version 1.2 is the previous version. We already have a newer version in place, 2.0. It's just Maven just hasn't yet updated the view here. On GitHub you find two projects. One is the Performetriks Gatlytron Quick Start. This is basically, you can download this as a zip file or clone it to your disk. And this is basically a fundamental start point that gives you all that you need to create your tests. To work with this project, you can go into the README file, and here you find all that you need to know, like how do you create the tests and how do you execute them and how do you configure them. The other project is the Gatlytron project, where the actual code of Gatlytron is. This is not really important to you. The README actually of this is just sending you to the Gatlytron Quick Start. Okay, good. So let's jump into the code of the Gatlytron Quick Start. So you see we have our tests under source main, and here we have scenarios, we have test settings, and we have our simulations. So if we open a scenario, then you see that this class extends from Gatlytron scenario. And we basically just define the name by calling the superclass, and then we can add our feeders and our scenario steps to this class. And we afterwards will use this specific class when we create a simulation. For example, let's go to the simulation. We have here just the regular Gatling simulation, but now here in the setup, what we are doing is we create a new instance of our Gatlytron simulation, Gatlytron scenario, and the Gatlytron scenario will provide you some very useful methods. For example, this build standard load, where you can just give the users the number of executions, how long the offset should be from the start, and how many users should be ramped up per interval. And this will then do your calculations for the pacing and the ramp up interval, so you don't have to think about that yourself. Good. How this project is built up is we have some common initialization, which is in the test globals. And here we basically do all the configuration of Gatlytron that is common for all the simulations. So we can set here some log levels. We can define if we want to send raw data to the system output, to the standard output. We can also define if we want to have the raw logs in a log file. So one thing that changed with recent Gatling versions is that let me see if there is a test. I don't have one. But what they did is they changed the format of their simulation log from plain text to some kind of binary format. So you cannot read that anymore. And if you want to know a little bit, okay, good, what is the response time during my test, this can be quite useful. So we basically recreated this log, put a little bit more information in it, and now you can also get this information again as well. Now, here is how you add reporters. The reporters are basically taking the statistical data and write it somewhere. It stores it somewhere. So, for example, we have here one of the standard reporters is the JSON reporter, will write the JSON file, and the CSV reporter will write the CSV file. We have other reporters like we have standard output for CSV. So we will see here the CSV data when we are running a test. And we have another reporter that writes to a database. As you see, we have it's quite simple. So you just define all the parameters to connect to your database and give a prefix for the table, what is by default just Gatlytron. So all the tables will be prefixed with Gatlytron that are related to Gatlytron executions and data. We can also report data to EMP directly. This setup is useful if you want to have age out of data. So if you have a lot of data and you want to kind of keep the disk space in check, EMP will do the age out of this data for you. This is not the case if you send it to any kind of database. There is no age out of data, so you would have to program that yourself. You can also directly connect to any other JDBC database. So if you have Oracle, MySQL, Microsoft SQL and so on, you can also do that. And then we can start Gatlytron and define how often the statistics should be reported. By default, this report interval is 15 seconds. I personally do not recommend setting it lower because the added value that you get from it is not really high. And you just blow up the amount of data that is stored in the database. Good. Now, currently I have already a simulation running so that I have something that I can show you. So I will probably go back to the to Eclipse to show you afterwards how to execute it manually. For now, let's jump into one of the dashboards. So here we see the data that is collected in in EMP. This is a standard dashboard. There is a template in the Gatlytron quick start. Under doc templates, you have these dashboard templates that you can import into EMP. Just make sure that you check the things here. Here, set up EMP dashboards. Here you get a little bit of a introduction how you what you have to change with the dashboards, because they are just templates, so you have to change one or two things so that they work. Good. So yeah, so as you see, we have like the user activity, total users started. We have the overall response time of the users of the whole tests. We have the request count, like how many are okay, how many are not okay. Then we have statistics by the different metrics. So these are basically the names that you define for your tests, or just the name of the request or the URL part of the request. And here we have the count, so you can see how stable it is, how often does it get executed. And we have here the metrics, minimum, average, 95 percentile, and the maximum. We have here a percentile chart where you can see how well your application is scaling. We have various widgets here where you can export some statistical data to, for example, to get it into Excel. Down here we have a comparison. Let me set that to the last 5 minutes and say compare. Let me see, did I change this? So this is one of the things that is documented. So this is basically referenced by an ID, and this ID, when you import the dashboard from a file, then the ID is not correct anymore. So now it works. Good. So we have a lot of undefined. That is. Let me see. Good question. What is that? I have to check later. Is this still actual data? Yeah, it seems the test is already over. That's probably why we get so many undefined. Let's see. Okay, probably that's something I have to check. Let's see on the other dashboard. Because I had to change a lot of things and fix a lot of things with the most recent changes. So this is probably a demo effect. Good, so we have here the simulation load average. Let's update this. And this is now the data that comes out of the Postgres database, what we personally recommend where you store your data. We have higher granularity here. In the EMP dashboard, the maximum granularity that you can get is 1 minute, because the EMP automatically aggregates down to 1 minute, or aggregates up, whatever you want to say. And here you have just plain data based on the amount on the reporting interval that you define in your test. Here we basically have the same amount of data. Let me get more or less the same data. Exactly, and here we also have the test started during the time frame. So we have 2 tests started in the last 1 hour. We have here the same data as well as here, and let's see what this here does. Good, so on the EMP dashboard I still have to update this table, but you see you get quite fast comparison between 2 time frames. So here I selected 1 hour, and here I selected the last 30 minutes. And then you get an overview, like how was your test or 2 different tests changing, or what are the differences. And this is quite useful to really see is there any improvement, or is there any decrease in performance? Have the tests been the same when between two different runs? So this is really a useful table to actually see what is changing between 2 tests. You also have here a download button where you can export this data as, for example, a CSV file and export it and import it into Excel. If you want to filter this data or sort it by certain fields. This one is just a Gantt chart that gives you the first and last execution of every metric. This is just to see like if something stopped working totally during the test, but normally you have just bars that are from one side to the other. Good, so this is the dashboarding that you have for real-time analysis. Now another thing that you have is in the dashboard list. So we have another dashboard template, which is the Gatlytron Test Control Center. And what you can do here is start and stop the tests directly from the browser. So you don't have to go to the server and open the IDE and find the right command and then execute the whole thing or so. we can define it so that you can directly execute the tests from a dashboard and then also check certain logs in this dashboard. So for example, the last thing that I was running was the load average. I now see it's not running anymore. Let's do a short run of the check debug. This one only runs for 1 minute. So now I see this thing is running. I can force refresh the data here because the data that you get here is cached for 1 minute. So if you want to have actual data, you click this button here. We see our test is still running. We can stop it here if we want as well. And now we see we already start to get data coming in here. Let's see if we get something else. Yeah, we have the raw logs. We don't have anything in the JSON yet. Let's see. Still nothing in the JSON. Now we have something in the JSON file. So this is all data that is written by Gatlytron, and here we have like statistical data. Now, how can we use this table? These tables, for example, here we can filter by error. If you write correctly, go away. Thank you. So I can check the Gatling log if there are any errors. I see there aren't any errors except like the one from the test error. That is just the name for one of the tests that I'm executing, so that I actually get errors that I have to show something. I can also check for exception. So I had some kind of exception. Reflective. Yeah, that's the issue when Gatling cannot download its recent version. I can ignore that one. Here I can check, for example, do we have any requests that are not okay? So I filter by requests KO. And then I see, we have here one call, the test error, that seems failing, what is good. So I have something to show to you. And here I have the statistics. So what I can do here is, can, for example, say I'm interested in this metric here. So I can filter here as well. And then I see the most recent statistics for this execution. And we see our run check debug is done. And yeah, now one thing that we want to see as well is how to execute these tests manually, right? So we have here a README. And in this README, you have Maven clean verify. Here is a simple command how to execute these Gatling tests with Gatlytron. We also have a Gradle command. We personally do not recommend using Gradle. We are more focused on Maven. But if you want to, or you have kind of standards that say you have to use Gradle or so, then this would also be a way to do that. I have set this up in Eclipse as some run configurations. So I have here, for example, my check debug that I execute here with the same command. And if I run this one, then we have the data coming in and everything is compiling, and that is great. So one thing about Gradle, I have set this up so that the data will also be stored in the target folder. It will not be redirected to the build folder. That's because our standard that we are currently using is Maven, and I cannot easily change that. Like I just don't want to introduce another variable, and I just have here the dir results. If you want to change it, you can change here the target directory, and you can also update your build Gradle somewhere inside here, target. So if you want to change that, that would be one thing that you can do. So it goes to your build folder. Good, I think this is all regarding the current version of Gatlytron. And as I see, my test here is also successfully executed. And yeah, thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a lot of fun working with Gatlytron.